When he got rid of the railway, there was the embankment and a nice sheltered place where John Mayo could run a shooting school. Not only because it was a safe place to be between those embankments, but because it was a quiet place. The noise of the shooting school hardly spread across the countryside, and so he set up there, and he's as good a shooting teacher as there was in England at that time. Now, as a matter of fact, he's a shooting teacher in Spain. And he's got a man with him who's never shot before. And the first thing he's going to do is to make sure his gun fits in. Now, most people don't think of guns fitting people, but for beginners and for older men in shotgun shooting, the fit of the gun, so it becomes part of the body, is absolutely essential. A man in his prime, a man in his late 20s and 30s who's an absolutely first-class shot, can usually shoot with any sort of gun because he instinctively adapted himself to it. But when you're a beginner, you can't do that, and when you get old, you're not very good at it. So the fitting gun is terribly important, and best shotguns are always made to fit people. He's bent the stock slightly to the right, that's what we call cast off, to take account of the width of his shoulders, and he's bent the stock downwards, that's what we call bend, in order to take account of the length of his neck. And he's trying to produce a situation. He also wishes that he had a different jacket, I think. But then he's not a shooting man. The fact of the matter is, this chap is a television producer, actually, but he's a good tennis player. And we thought we'd like to watch a man who had never had a shotgun in his hand before go through the hands of John Mayo and learn to shoot a flying bird. And so we thought the right thing to do was to pick a man who's good at ball games, because as I have said, this is the point. When you play tennis, you don't look at the racket, you look at the ball, and the racket is swung as an instinctive part of your own body. And that's what has to happen in the shooting of flying game. So, this is a rough fit. That's the fit that John Mayo can achieve just by looking at the man. Now we go to the triplate. Now, you may have noticed he's opened the gun about half a dozen times. He's constantly making sure it's empty. And quite right, too, because he's now going to stand where the bird would be, and he's going to look straight down at the man, down the thing, at his eye, at his body, and make up his mind whether or not he has fitted that gun so that it will act as part of his body. If this chap becomes a shot, and he's well to do, he'll go to a gunsmith, and the gunsmith would make a gun to fit him. If he's not all that rich and he went to buy a second-hand gun, he'd buy one which was approximately his fit, and any little local gunsmith, knowing the measurements which John will give him before the end of today, he'll give him his measurements for a gun. He can take it to any local gunsmith in England, and he'll add a little length or he alter a little bend or a little cast-off and bring it. Near fit, right. All this is the safety stuff, the ritual safety stuff, the strict rules that go with the traditional and proper use of shotguns. The breaking of these rules resulted in us being sent home immediately. If we went shooting and we did something wrong in the way of safety, the owner of the shoot would say, "Give me your gun, if you please, Jack, and go home and tell your father I've got it, and if he rings me up, I'll explain why." So that upset you a bit. Tended to make you behave. He's showing him how each trigger pulls a different barrel, and now he's going to work a trick on him. He's blown a hole in the ground at his feet. My father did that in the dunghill in the farmyard with me when I was young. It scared me to death. It's an old shooting teacher's trick, but it doesn't half show you what could happen to your foot at close quarters if you don't make all this safety behavior become instinctive to you. You're not fit to go out in other company until you have. That's part of his job today, to condition his mind to all these things. It'll get him weeks on in the course of one day compared with just learning it in the field. John Mayo is a fine shooting teacher. In fact, he was the pupil of the great Percy Stanbury, 13 times the British clay pigeon champion, the greatest shooting coach of all, the man who taught King George V and Earl Mountbatten and all these people to shoot. Right. He's had a bang at the target, the whitewashed target. Now we'll go and see whether the measurements have worked. Well, as you know, it fires a cloud of number 6 shot about 2 foot across at 30 yards. And you can see just the edge of that cloud there. In other words, he's swung off and his shot has gone to the left of the target. He's just rubbing home to him what that would mean if he weren't in such a safe place. So he whitewashes the target again. And I think, yes, what he's going to do is to give it a bit more cast off. Always checking to see it's empty. The tools come out of his pocket and he'll give it a little more bend. A little more. No, wait a minute, he's right-handed and it's going to the left, so he'll be taking a little bend off it. He'll be taking, there you are, you see he's shown him how much it's bent. When you know shotguns, you go into a gunsmith, a second-hand gun, and you pick it up right there, turn it on, you can see in a moment what it's like to fit you by the bend of the stock. Right. That will make a difference. Well, it did make a difference. An inch or two of difference, but perhaps not quite enough. So I think he's wondering whether how much of this is posture and how much of this is the gun. Ask him how it... Yeah, he's decided to alter it again. Don't close that left eye, he's saying. If you do that, you'll start to aim. Just look at the target. See the difference that happens when you open and close that eye, right? What have we got now? We have got the pattern all round the bird. Marvellous to watch the shooting master at work. See, he's familiarising that chap with that gun in a way which would otherwise take absolutely years, making it part of his physique, so that he's actually going to turn into a very good game shot. That is, if he goes out and buys himself a new coat, because he'd be hard put to swing at a high pheasant in that gear, wouldn't he?